Hi, and good afternoon. And like I say here, this is 100% proof and evidence that the United Nations use misinformation and they disinform the general public. They are relying simply and solely on the fact that you are not educated in the quantities of atmospheric CO2 in the atmosphere. As you can see, human-caused or man-made, whichever way you want to look at it, CO2 measures 0.012%. Not even 0.5%. Not even 0.1%. And they're saying in the banner that will probably be below this video if they've got the gall to do it. You can read it yourself. The main causes are human activities. And as you can see, human-caused or man-made CO2 is just a very, very small fraction of the small fraction of CO2 in our atmosphere. That is why CO2 and methane are called trace gases, because they're barely there to start with. And I can't put a methane pie chart there, guys, because if I was to put the actual level of methane on that chart, you wouldn't see the slice of the pie there. It's that small. CO2 is 200 times more abundant than methane, yet they want to ostracise methane and CO2 and make you believe like our atmosphere is swamped in the gas, and it's not. It's barely there to start with. But let's get to the point. If we was to reach net zero, because this is what their target is, net zero, man-made CO2, what the hell difference is it going to make? It's not going to make any difference whatsoever. Look at how much man-made CO2 is actually put into the atmosphere by man or human. Al Gore got a slap in his face at COP28 when the petrostates turned round and said, piss off. We're not going to give up the only method of our income for our country so that we can be in your little club of lies. And people are starting to wake up to this scam, and it's nothing less than a scam. And the United Nations are nothing but a bunch of unelected criminals. I'll say it again. The United Nations and the European Union are a bunch of unelected, which means nobody in the world voted for them. They're self-appointed and they control our governments. And we need to do something about this, and I'll tell you why. Because we are all paying over £1,000 towards this climate tax, and a lot more. And it is destroying industries around the world. And at a time that we're all faced with right now, the cost of living crisis in most of the Western countries all over Europe, we cannot afford this. We cannot afford this corruption, and it's got to stop. And if we do nothing, if we just sit around waiting for somebody else to do something about it, it will never happen. This needs to be a joint effort. We need to let people see this, what I'm showing you here. I took out an hour of my time today just to knock this up for you. And I wouldn't mind if you showed and shared it with everyone you could possibly share it with, because it is the truth. What the United Nations have relied on is the lack of knowledge in this field. And that's why people are bamboozled when you start talking about atmospheric gases, and they don't know the levels of the gases. And they don't know at what critical point these gases will be effective in changing climate. But what I will tell you now, as a scientist, as well as many, many scientists that are saying the same thing on this, CO2 is plant food, and if we cut it by half, we'll kill all the vegetation on this planet, and in turn kill ourselves. And if we cut even back the levels of CO2 that even man puts into the atmosphere, it will change nothing whatsoever, because the amount of CO2 that man or humankind puts into the atmosphere is minimalistic. It's nothing. But these criminals have turned this fast into a $1 trillion industry, and in doing so destroyed $1 trillion worth of industry through making their laws and policies. You know, what they are suggesting is so unrealistic, it's laughable, and you know that these people are not qualified in the fields that they talk about, because first of all, if these was real scientists, they would know that CO2 is a nil effector of climate. They would know that it's a trace gas. They would know that methane is 200 times smaller, and therefore no need to, you know, force farmers to sell the farmland. What is the real reason they want the farmland for? Please, somebody in the comment section, give me an idea. What is it that they are so hell-bent on getting their hands on this farmland? What do they want it for? If they don't want it for agriculture, what do they want it for? And they, you know, they don't want it for agriculture. They don't want it for the hydrocarbons. What do they want it for? Guys, that's why I say, I don't think these people are human beings. They're not making, you know, rational, logical decisions here. They've based their entire method of climate change on a fabricated lie. CO2 is not responsible for climate change. I know these are not educated people. I really know that, because if they was, they wouldn't outrule the magnetic pole reversal. They wouldn't outrule grand solar minimum, and they wouldn't outrule the fact that we are returning back into a glacial period. All these three things are climate changes, and yet they have not mentioned them once. My reasoning behind this is because they don't know about these things. What they do know is that CO2 is a good scam, and to this current point in time they have milked and waxed themselves very rich out of it. These are unelected people. This is not part of democracy. They talk about democracy. Well, when you go out after people on the digital space because of what they're talking about and the ideas they're sharing, that is not democracy. That is not being very democratic, is it? But that's exactly what they're doing. You know, if they realised what they was doing, they would stop immediately. I'm sure that if they realised that naturally our Earth's agricultural land is going offline because of climate change, not related to CO2, they would stop what they were doing if they had a bit of grey matter in their head. And I don't think they do. If we pop the bubble on these CO2 lies now, thousands and thousands of people will lose their jobs, I guarantee you that. And they should lose them, because they should not be having a job on the back of lies and a false industrial platform. But yet that is what we've got. And I know some of these are real scientists, but they're keeping their mouth shut and just towing the line because they know everything will be taken away from them as soon as they step out of line. But I'm not paid by them. I'm supported by the general public when I am supported. And I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. And I'm going to keep producing videos like this, as many as I have to, and hopefully I'll inform more and more people by the day, by the week, by the month, by the year, and eventually we will get the masses to understand this scam that is going on. This is nothing more than a deliberate attack on the people that are not correctly informed. This is misinformation that the United Nations is spreading, and you know, for that I can only say that this is a criminal organisation, because it is based on zero evidence. You can clearly see how much human CO2 or man-made CO2 is in our atmosphere, and you can reduce that by 200-fold if you want to talk about methane. Yet the destruction that is happening around our world because of methane and CO2 being their so-called causes of climate change, it is destroying people's livelihoods and causing people to further commit suicide. This has got to stop. This has to stop, guys. We've got Bill Gates moving in now to Kenya with his GMO seeds, and the scientists, which are real salesmen, are convincing these farmers to buy up these seeds, these genetically modified seeds, and it will be Pakistan and India 2.0. You know, just look at the figures of deaths related to suicide because of farmers failing. This has got to stop, is all I'm saying. You know, and if you can't do something yourself, then please get behind somebody that is willing to do it. There's a link down there in the description. You know, I'll say what else I usually say. Take care of your loved ones, as always. Bye for now.